ABQ Business Podcast. Jason and Alexander here, and we want to talk about oil and gas. What happened recently?
Oh, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Oil and gas industry.
New Mexico.
So some of you guys are just hanging out. Mm-hmm. Maybe some of you have moved here. Albuquerque's kind of gotten some growth.
Yep.
And something's been happening for a long time in the state. A long time. There's an industry that pretty much is the revenue cow for the state.
New Mexico is the second largest domestic oil producer here in the United States. Texas is first.
People need to understand this. New Mexico is the what?
Second largest domestic oil producer. Outside of Alaska, outside of anywhere else that you may see, oil getting pulled out of the ground. Even like
Louisiana,
West Virginia, all that stuff. New Mexico does it more often, and does it bigger than anybody. And what does that mean, though? What does that accrue towards?
Tax revenue?
Tax revenue.
Let's talk about this. Tax revenue. WashingtonExaminer.com wrote an article. New Mexico oil and natural gas industry contributes record $5.3 billion in tax revenue for this year.
Yeah. Does New Mexico have a plan in place for when the rest of the United States starts to do its transition off of oil and gas?
Oh, we're going to talk about that. But by the way, I want people to understand this $5.3 billion is the highest figure ever recorded in state history.
Yeah, that's taxes. So what's the state tax on it? Like 8%?
Yes.
So if you think about how much revenue from oil drilling actually occurred, that's a lot. It's a lot of revenue. And the second one here.
Well, it's $27 billion, I think they said, in annual economic activity and 134,000 jobs. Right.
Also, okay.
So what do you do? This is what we want to talk about. What do you do with those 134,000 people? Mm-hmm. Are all 134,000, they're probably contractors from Texas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what do you do when we make these shifts to alternate energies?
This is how I see it happening here. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to blow your hair back. The limited hair you have on your head. The same equipment that is used in oil drilling or fracking is also used for drilling deep geothermal energy centers. Mm-hmm. We are in certain fault lines or pockets where the plates are colliding. So there's so much geothermal energy relatively, a short distance underneath the crust here. So what I see is there being a transition off of oil and gas drilling and transitioning over to geothermal. So New Mexico puts itself in the lead in terms of clean energy production, but is able to retain, if not generate, more jobs. So here's a cool part about this is how I see this whole thing unfolding. That work transitions over to this cleaner energy, essentially limitless, because the Earth is just pumping this out through its fusion core. Those jobs are spurring up. People are spending more money. More geothermal facilities are being built. The cost of energy drops dramatically in New Mexico. More data centers move in here. More Netflixes. Okay? People's ability to buy and create things increases also dramatically beyond that. So the local economy starts to boom.
And this is the crazy part, Alexander, with this too, is we have something that we're the leader in.
What's that, Jason?
If we wanted to go another route, let's say, okay, geothermal, that's probably the safest. And we could probably have people on here, it's arguments. We have something that we're really good at in New Mexico, something that we created here in New Mexico.
Oh.
And we could be the leader in this too for energy.
Does it start with
It starts with an N.
Yeah.
No one likes to talk about this, but it's, Sweden and Switzerland and, all these great, that say the happiest places people live, they're all off of nuclear. The waste isn't that much. There's geothermal. I don't know how much waste there is with that. I haven't studied that out.
Almost none.
But I know on the nuclear side, there's not that much waste either. But we could be the leading, we could take examples from these other countries and say, we have these labs here. We've done this since the 1930s,
right?
40s. We could build a couple nuclear stations and say, this is the safest nuclear stations in the world, we could put them someplace that would be ultra safe.
Listen, nuclear technology is cool. It's afforded us a lot of good stuff. The only issue is spent fuel.
Yeah.
Apart from that, like the reactors and stuff themselves, very limited, essentially waste in the system. Like that comes off, like radiation, just floated, free radiation. So that's why I'm a proponent for the geothermal, because it would be very difficult to transition oil and gas jobs into building nuclear power plants.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to have that.
So what I'm saying is use the same technology, same skill sets, and actually increase the longevity of their futures and their children's futures for work, and continue to drive that revenue, and also dramatically drop energy costs here in the state and the amount of waste that we have at the same time. Therefore, affording new businesses to come into New Mexico and new tax revenue, because that tax revenue we've seen, that giant gain of $5.3 billion, that will disappear. And the labs are going to need as much energy as possible, too, at the same time. All those bright minds.
Well, I mean, here's the scary part, and no one wants to talk about. 35% of our budget is from this.
Which
35. Think about that. If you had, I mean, you're the CEO. I'm the CMO of Tartle.
Use it in the context of a human body. Say it take away 35% of your body.
Yeah, what would happen? Yeah. Think about that.
Is that easier?
Yeah.
It's better for people to get it that way.
Yeah. Take 35% of your body.
I'm dead on the floor. I'm useless.
Yeah, and so this is interesting, too. The state's oil and gas industry contributed $2.96 billion to New Mexico's general revenue fund, $1.95 billion towards other state tax royalties and revenues. It also paid $358 million in local taxes, but tax revenue from federal mineral leasing remains the largest single source of income. So this is crazy. Federal mineral leasing is the largest single source of income at $803 million.
So the U.S. government owns the land.
Right.
They lease it off to private companies, and the private companies pay into that federal budget for this leasing, and then the federal government gives that money back to the state of New Mexico.
Yeah, and they're drilling more, of course. That you can't get more production without drilling. So as drilling returns, production grows, prices stabilize. So policymakers, New Mexicans alike, and have every reason to be cautiously optimistic. This is what the article says about the industry's revenue contributions in future. But the president and CEO of the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, which that person, Leland Gould, is going to be pro, gas and oil and all that.
Obviously.
And we're not saying this is bad. She says that it's an historic opportunity, which has great news for teachers and students, critical first responders and healthcare workers, and each and every New Mexican across the state.
How does she make that leap?
Well, I think she's saying 35% of the budget is from us.
Yeah.
Bitches.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what she's saying. She's like, we're the ones supporting you guys. It's a pretty brash statement, but the way I look at it is that's a very fragile system, and it's over leveraged. And I think we could make it more robust here in New Mexico and secure our future with deep geothermal energy production. That's just my thought. And I probably think that's the smartest way to go forward, considering we have very deep underground aquifers here in New Mexico. And not doing what Iceland has done would be ridiculous. And there's so much spare energy that Iceland has. Look at the size of it.
I know.
There's just like blah, 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 just pumping energy out.
Well, what people don't realize, if you're from New Mexico, you get this. If you're not from here, is besides Albuquerque and Santa Fe, everything else is really rural.
Very rural.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you drive outside of Albuquerque or Santa Fe, you're in farmland country.
We have ghost towns.
Yes.
That's a legit thing.
Yes.
You're like, wait, what is this?
Well, weren't they filming at a ghost town and somebody shot somebody? Yeah. That was our last episode. FYI. So the future of New Mexico.
Yeah.
Getting, not taking away.
No.
Not putting windmills all over the mountains.
No need for it.
And having solar panels up and down the freeways.
Yeah.
What you're suggesting is geothermal.
Right, because oil and gas, you have to keep drilling everywhere to find more of it. Geothermal, you drill down once, and it's there forever. That's it. It just keeps going, and then you're not depleting anything.
On and on.
It's on and on and on and on. That's exactly correct. And all the skill sets, all that can easily transition over from the current oil and gas industry. And those oil and gas guys out there really making it happen in the field, they wouldn't be opposed to it. It's a whole new big industry. brand new infrastructures that get built off of this geothermal transfer. It's fantastic.
Well, they call it New Mexico energy workers.
That's what they are.
So whatever, they just need to work.
Yeah.
How the energy is or what the energy is being used for. It's
Doesn't
just
matter to
134,000 jobs.
Yeah. And frankly, I think it's important. I think we can actually generate way more jobs with geothermal.
Yeah. We have unlimited energy. Who wants it? California?
Yeah.
We'll send it to you. Colorado?
The federal government leases out mineral rights. We're going to lease out our energy all over the U.S. because we have so much of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's a cool idea.
So I encourage people, if you haven't subscribed to our we even have audio on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
So, but if you haven't subscribed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, if you're just listening to this, maybe you saw it online or whatever, you can also go to our website, abqpodcast.com. That's abqpodcast.com. Give us a shout out. I know I put in the show notes, has your LinkedIn.
Well, thank you
so
very much.
if you want to know more about Alexander McCaig and him being the CEO of our sponsor, Tartle.co, and I'll have you talk about that here in a second. And then you can go, I'm ABQ Jason Rigby.
Yes, you are.
Mostly on Twitter and Instagram. But I encourage you guys to follow us. We are, if somebody is in the oil and natural gas industry and they want to have a conversation with us,
I'd love to chat about it.
If you're a scientist or somebody that is with the labs and you've studied geothermal or nuclear or any of that, we'd love to have you on the podcast too.
They're going to know.
That'd be a ton of fun.
They're probably going to agree with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would be fun. So reach out to us. You can do that through those links. But mainly I want to talk about our sponsor real quick, Tartle.co. If somebody wants to get paid for their data, how would they sign up and start taking ownership of their data?
So we're a local New Mexico company, and we have a global user base of human beings that have come together to share their information and get paid for sharing it. Everything they do on their phones, anything that happens online that they are a part of, they own that data. And if they want to simply, here in New Mexico, sign up to be a part of that free system to use, they go to Tartle.co, and they're going to click on the green button that says Get Started. And in short order, you're going to be on your way to sharing your data and earning income that you otherwise weren't making in the first place.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.